is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
All right, welcome into another 3 Mile Pod. I am your host, Cole Manbeck, joined as always by publisher and editor at K-State Online over on the On3 Network, Derek Young. Once again, no John this week, and DY can attest that John is very disappointed and frustrated that he was not able to join us this week for either episode after K-State was on the heels of a 4-game losing streak, and we didn't have a lot of positive things to talk about, and now we do. On the heels of K-State's huge win against number 4 ranked Kansas on Monday night in Bramlage Coliseum, and John Kurtz has not been able to do a pod with us.
We just let John melt down. We don't let him bask in the glory of wins. We just let him melt down.
I feel like John, he's got maybe the more pessimistic reputation out of the three of us, anyways, right?
Yeah.
So
it used to be you.
Yeah. I've tried to turn over a new leaf a little bit. At times I get down, but you guys bring me back up sometimes. So. As always, go get stocked up with your Ben Holiday bottled and bond bourbon or 360 vodka. Get your Super Bowl drinks ready to go for whatever Super Bowl watch party you might be having, and whatever beverages you're going to mix or make. I'd pick up some 360 vodka or Ben Holiday bottled and bond bourbon from our friends over at Holiday Distillery. Go support them as they always support us. Great K-State folks over there at Holiday Distillery. All right, DY, we're here to talk a little bit of Kansas State BYU on Saturday, 9 p.m. tip in Provo at the Marriott Center, one of the largest arenas in the country, 19,000 capacity. So should be one heck of an atmosphere. They always bring it to BYU, and the fans pack that place. So looking forward to watching that one. I did have to throw out DY real quick, just a couple more numbers on that KU game before we dive into BYU. But I had tweeted these out the other night, and don't want my time to be wasted too much for those of you who are not on Twitter that didn't see it. But one of the things that I thought was so impressive about the win over KU is K-State fell behind 11 in the first couple minutes of the second half. And I went back and went through all of KU's game logs over the last few years of when they led by double digits in the second half of games. And games coached by Bill Self, KU had won 51 consecutive games when they led by double figures in the second half. And K-State obviously ended that streak on Monday night when they came back and won from 11 down in the second half. And Bill Self is 9-1 in overtime games since 2017, since February 2017, except for 2 games against Jerome Tang. I guess a better way to say it is he is 9-3 in overtime games since 2017, and 2 of those losses are to Jerome Tang over the last couple of years. So just incredible stuff by K-State and be able to come back and win that game. So let's turn over the table to BYU, DY, and maybe just to start, the significance of this game. I mean, how important is this one? I mean, K-State's going to be pretty heavy underdogs. I think Bart Torvik has K-State around 11-point underdogs, projects a score of 76-65 BYU. But BYU's lost a couple times at home. They lost 71-60 to Cincinnati in Provo, and they also lost to Houston, which was a hard-fought game, and it was a 1-score game late, but they lost at 75-68. Those are a couple of their home losses. It's a tough place to play in the altitude, but what do you make of this game and the significance of it for this Kansas State team coming off a huge win over KU?
Yeah, I won't hide it from the viewers. I know I told you beforehand. BYU might be the team I know the least about in the Big 12. I think I've always seen them play start to finish one time. Hopefully that'll be more than that once game time gets here. So I'll be a little bit more informed. I've seen bits and pieces of other stuff. Look, I'm not gonna lie. This is a challenge of us in the media right now going forward in the Big 12. Like, some of these teams are, one, you got a lot of teams to know a lot about, right? Like, it's no longer 10 teams. Now it's 14. Next year it'll be 16. And some of them play incredibly late. And I'm not a stay up late kind of guy most of the time. So I'm going to run into that problem when we have games in every single time zone going forward. That'll be something that I have to navigate a little bit better than what I have so far this year. So I know the least about BYU. I know they like to shoot the 3. That's why they were a perfect matchup for Iowa State. Iowa State likes to keep teams out of the paint and force teams into maybe what they would consider reckless 3-pointers. But for BYU, that's the way they want to play. That's why BYU was a perfect matchup for Iowa State and kind of tossed the Cyclones around. One of their better wins on the season. So that's probably the extent what I know about the Cougars. I know it's a tough place to play as well. The significance of the game is, look, I think I said it on our last show, or I at least wrote about it multiple times so far. I agree with Jerome Tang to an extent that 9-9 gets them into the NCAA tournament. I think 9-9 gets you into a 50-50 proposition. I think 9-9 puts you squarely on the bubble where your fate is probably in the committee's hands. 9-9 probably gets you to Dayton, Ohio, to be quite honest. If you're Kansas State, I would think. Now, if you want to do a little bit better than that, maybe be a little bit more comfortable, what I said on the last show was take care of your business at home, which would make you, at worst, 9-9, because you do have 4 home games remaining. I believe those are against BYU, TCU, Iowa State, and West Virginia. At least 2 of those will be quad 1, perhaps 3, depending on the Frogs. I think that gets you squarely onto the bubble and into the conversation. What I would encourage and what I suggested on our last show was that I think they probably need to steal a road game, and preferably one that would be quad 1. But I think are the remaining road games probably all going to be quad 1? Cool.
Yeah, I think every road game at Texas, at KU, at Cincinnati, and what's the fourth? At BYU. Yeah, they're all locked.
They're all top 30.
Well, you only got to be top 75 in the net for a road.
Yeah,
game.
those are all top 30.
They're not even close to falling out of that. Yeah,
Texas isn't, right? Texas might be outside the 30.
Texas is probably 40. I checked earlier. They're not going to fall.
That'll still be quad 1. So like I said, I would suggest getting a road win there. The crazy thing is that Cincinnati is number 30 in the net still, right? And this is probably an example of what KSU_fan always says, and he's really good about this. He really observes what the committee does year in and year out, that your raw net ranking matters much, much less than what you do basically in terms of quad 1 and quad 2 wins. He always says this, your net ranking, the committee doesn't necessarily use your net ranking. They use your net ranking to determine your quality of wins, like in the quad 1 and quad 2, which is pretty significant, and to check if you have any bad losses, any black eyes there in the quad 3 and quad 4. Now, K-State is close to 2 quad 3 losses. They don't have any yet, but both Oklahoma State, USC, right, are on the brink, I would say.
Yeah.
So you hope those don't fall into the quad 3 category. I doubt Oklahoma State does, just because they're going to be playing good teams every game anyway. But USC could still, I think you would agree, could still fall into the quad 3 category.
Well, they're scuffling for sure. I don't know how they're going to get out of that. That's just one of those situations where it seems like the chemistry didn't work out. They had the talent, and
after Kansas State, you played them at the wrong time.
Yeah. So they just out-athleted you on that night.
But I think you need to steal a road win on top of taking care of business at home. Is at the end of the day is what I think for Kansas State. Now BYU, because you asked the significance of that. So BYU is an opportunity to do that. I don't think it's one of their best opportunities. I think one of their best opportunities would be to win at Cincinnati, who I think is probably overinflated by the net. Still a solid team, but they're not one of the 30 best teams in the country, in my opinion. Or Texas, just because they can't freaking win at home.
Yeah. Cincinnati's a really interesting team because I watch them and I'm like, I watched them play UCF at home a couple of weeks ago and they really struggled, and then they ended up pulling it away. They took the lead late and they ended up winning by, I think, close to double figures or maybe even double figures. And I know they had been battling some sickness. Yet they go on the road. They won at BYU, and they went on the road and they won at Texas Tech.
Yeah.
But then they also, I don't know, and they hung close with KU and Lawrence as well. They lost by 5, but yet they're kind of like a rugged, defensive-minded team that I feel like it'll be a close game against. And I feel like if I was going to circle a game they have the best chance to win, it would probably be Cincinnati. But I do think they have a fighter's chance. Well, Texas too. Texas sucks at home. You pointed that out. Yeah, you pointed that out. And by the time K-State plays, who knows how much energy is going to be in that arena.
I did like the point you made out in our group chat, and we talk about our group chat a lot. People wish they probably could get into the group chat at this point.
What?
But you said like Texas might be smart, right? Like, because if you're going to lose, you might as well lose at home. Because if you win on the road, like every road win is a quad one win.
Well, so Texas is 38th in the net, and they have 4 quad one wins. They have more quad one wins than Iowa State or BYU, yet BYU's 8th in the net and Iowa State's 9th in the net. But because Texas has been so good on the road, they've racked up quad one wins as a result. The interesting thing, though, about the net, DY, is Kansas State is 6-8 in quad one and quad two games combined. Now they're 2-4 in quad one. So to your point, they need higher end wins like KU, Baylor. They need more of those types of wins, those quad ones.
Which you're going to get that if you take care of business at home because of BYU and Iowa State.
But the only reason I bring that up is because K-State's 6-8 in quad one and quad two. So 14 matchups against quad one and quad two opponents. You look at BYU, they're 3-5 in quad one and 2-1 in quad two. So they've only played 11 quad one and quad two games compared to 14 for K-State. And they only have 5 quad one. They have 1 less quad one and quad two combined win than K-State, yet BYU is 8th in the net and a lock-in for the NCAA tournament because their metrics are so good, because they're so efficient.
But their seeding is not great.
What are they projected at? What are like a 5, 6?
I've seen 6 or 7 a couple of times. Yeah. So that's what that'll hurt BYU at some point, right? They got to start beating teams too.
Yeah. And I mean, look, you even look at Iowa State now with last night's win at Texas. They now got 4 quad one wins, but between quad one and quad two, Iowa State is 6-5 compared to 6-8 for K-State. But again, Iowa State blew out teams in the non-con. K-State's metrics aren't nearly as good because of the close games against the North Alabamas of the world, the Oral Roberts, Chicago State. And
at the same time, though, you have to also consider Iowa State's put themselves into the conversation at this point, especially with their remaining schedule. They don't have to go to Lawrence compared to Kansas and Houston's schedule. Iowa State can still win the Big 12.
Yeah, no, they absolutely could. They have big wins against Houston, KU on their home court, and then obviously the win at Texas last night, and they were right there with Baylor at the end of the game.
The schedule favors them. They're already 1 game ahead of KU, I believe, at this point.
And they don't have to go to Lawrence, right?
Correct. Right. They don't have to go to Lawrence, which is funny to me, though. Like their fans were complaining that they don't get to go to Lawrence. I'm like, that gives you a path to the Big 12 title this year.
What do we have to do to beg the Big 12 to not send K-State to Lawrence ever? I mean, I'm fine with that.
Would we get pissed about that? I don't even think we would.
No, I would never be mad about that. I would go send Brett Yormark a gift card if they wanted to keep K-State.
If you only get to host KU, K-State would throw a freaking parade down.
I would think everybody in the Big 12 would be thrilled if they could avoid Kansas and Allen Fieldhouse. So you'd be nuts if you wanted to do that. Anyways. All right. Well, as always, before we go to break, we got to tell you about our friends at Home Field Apparel, as we just did a little bracketology talk to start things off here. But want to tell you about Home Field, who's got everything you could want from K-State items, hoodies, T-shirts, even a bomber jacket with Pennant Willie, lavender bomber jacket, just sweet stuff, retro logos. That's their style. They've got every logo throughout the K-State history, Pennant Willie, Sailor Willie. I don't believe Cocaine Willie is the proper name of it, I've been told, but that's what a lot of people tend to call it. They've got that too all over a lot of their gear. Sleek, retro stuff. Anything that meets what you're looking for, go rock some Home Field Apparel. So go to homefieldapparel.com and you can score 15% off, as always, with discount code 3MAW23 when you go to checkout. So go to homefieldapparel.com. Shop the more than 40 items of K-State they have on their website, or you can choose from over 100 other colleges if you so inclined, like DY, who rocks a lot of different colleges from Home Field Apparel, and score 15% off with discount code 3MAW23. We'll be back right after this to talk some Cougars and K-State on Saturday night.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest-ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com. kcsn.substack.com.
All right, DY, you just want me to throw it to you for some BYU talk? You want to give me the breakdown of what they do?
Free ball, right? And I'm not crazy, right? They love the three ball.
You're not crazy at all. In fact, BYU attempts 33 threes per game. They are number 2 nationally in 3-point rate. So out of their field goal attempts, 51% of BYU's field goal attempts come from 3. That's number 2 in the nation in 3-point rate. They're number 4 nationally at assist rate, assisting on 64.3% of their made field goal attempts. There's 36% from 3. So they shoot a lot of threes, and 36% is good. But that ranks 60th nationally. What's interesting about them, DY, they are 59% on 2s, which ranks 5th in the country per Bart Torvik. So really efficient on the inside and at 2-pointers, but they shoot such a heavy volume of 3s. And look, they very well may get a lot of good 2-point looks because so many teams are looking to run them off the 3-point line because they shoot it well from 3 and they shoot such a high volume from the perimeter. But a very deep team, a very balanced team, a difficult offense to defend. They're 12th nationally in effective field goal percentage offense at 56.6%. They aren't going to turn it over a ton. Now, the interesting thing about them is, DY, they are 361st out of 362 teams at free throw rate at 21.5%. So this is not a team that gets to the free throw line.
And that's a big, big deal because the single most important stat this year for Kansas State in terms of wins and losses has been what? The free throw line.
Yeah, I mean, we did the numbers just last week. In their 5 league losses, they've been outshot 15 attempts per game at the free throw line.
And shout out to KSU fan, who was the first one that started to unwind that yarn, so to speak. And Coach Tang even mentioned it.
Yeah,
the free throw line and second chance points is a big one too. Yeah,
and it's big because BYU can shoot it pretty well from the free throw line, but they just don't get there much. And on the defensive end, they're 104th in free throw rate allowed. And sometimes basketball can be all about matchups, right? It's what they talk about in the NCAA tournament. Folks have mentioned this. I mentioned this on this very show already, but it's why BYU was able to just take care of Iowa State almost with ease, just because of the matchups. Like, what's important to BYU, they could easily dominate Iowa State in that department, right? And I was talking about the 3-point line versus in the paint where Iowa State likes to defend the most. If you want to dive into that, this is a really good matchup for K-State because outside of a couple of games this year, and I think you might be able to attest, I might be crazy, K-State does defend the 3-point line pretty well. I mean, I think so. I mean, KU was 3 of 15 from 3. That was 20%. They shot tied for a season worst. Actually, it was a season worst from 3. Now, a couple of those were looks that they probably normally make. But yeah, I mean, I think K-State has been solid at 3-point defense, defending the arc and the perimeter. And, BYU moves the ball well. I mentioned their assist rate. And so they don't look like the most athletic guys in the world when you're watching them, but they really move it well. And so you got to play sound.
That's stereotype. Why is that? Is that a stereotype there?
No, it's not. It's not. Well, okay, look, they've got a big man, Ali. They've got a big man transfer from Charlotte. Let me just make sure I get his last name right, because I've watched him play. Ali Khalifa, right? And DY, I'm telling you, when you watch this guy, he's a 6'11" junior center, transfer from Charlotte. He's averaging 6 points per game, averages 4.4 rebounds, but he also averages 4.3 assists because he passes the ball really well. He's a guy that really sees the floor well. He passes it well out of the post and also out of pick and pop situations. He's played 82 games in his career. We'll get into the player by player breakdown of BYU's roster. But I'm just telling you, he's like a kind of a heavy set center. Doesn't really move. Looks like it's a struggle for him to get up and down the floor. Okay, you've seen him.
I've seen him, and you're right. But you were talking across the board.
I'm just they're not they get to clearly they get to the rim and they get good looks. I mean, they are a very fundamentally sound team. I think Mark.
Well, he looks like he belongs as a center on a football team.
Yeah, and I mean, Mark Pope's a really good coach. I'm impressed with a lot of the things they do, but I think another key part, DY, with them in this matchup is we know K-State has struggled with turnovers. BYU, in terms of turnover rate forced, ranks 215th nationally with a 16.7% turnover rate. No, nothing to add to that. So that's a key aspect of this.
Yeah, but I will say, like, I don't think it matters what a team ranks in turnover rate for us. Like, Kent State's going to turn it over. Like, I feel like that's just something that's not stopping. But they can win in spite of it. Like, I hate it too, but it's not determining outcomes that much for them.
Well, here's the other one that's a key number. Now,
as an example, sorry to cut you off, K-State just got blasted on or on points off turnovers, 21-8 by KU. Didn't matter.
Yeah. Well, it felt like it mattered at various points when I was watching some of those turnovers.
Yes. It's infuriating while you watch it. It's just not a stat that's dictating the outcome for K-State for some reason.
Yeah, but wasn't it last year when their turnover rate hit a certain mark? Like, if they got it to a certain point, and I think it was Jerome Tang had said if they turned it over 15 times or less last year, they didn't lose.
Last year it was determinative. This year it's not. This year it's free throw rate and offense, like their defensive rebounding effectiveness, right? Their offensive rebounding rate allowed. Yeah.
Well, that hits on the next point. The other key matchup, rebounding. BYU is 40th nationally in offensive rebounding percentage at 34% rebounding rate, but
that makes you cringe a little. Yeah,
but they are a really good defensive rebounding. BYU and K-State's been a really good offensive rebounding team. BYU is 9th in the country in defensive rebounding.
K-State's not good on the defensive class, but they did keep KU off the offensive glass.
Yeah. I mean, K-State was good on the defensive glass against the Jayhawks. And K-State they crash the offensive boards and have been pretty good there, but BYU is 9th in the country in defensive rebounding percentage. So that's going to be another key thing. And then other thing I'll mention, look, BYU has a lot of firepower offensively. I mentioned earlier, in fact, let's see what their, first of all, it's a BYU team that beat a good San Diego State team at home. I mentioned they beat Iowa State. They dominated Iowa State 87-72 in Provo. And
yeah. And the only thing I will qualify, San Diego State is good, but I will qualify San Diego State the same way I would qualify for Florida Atlantic. Maybe they're getting bored this year, but those two teams that were in the Final Four and brought a lot of firepower back are not as consistent this year for some reason at the moment.
Yeah. BYU is number 11 in KenPom, number 11 overall team in KenPom rankings. They have the number 10 offense and the number 26 defense. They're actually pretty solid defensively. They hold teams to 30% from three. That ranks 20th in the country. And they hold teams to 47% on twos. That ranks 59th in the country. Now, their block percentage at the rim defensively is 7.5%. That ranks 260th in the country. So you get in there, they're not going to block a lot of your shots or challenge those shots necessarily. And then they're 8th in the country offensively at block percentage allowed at 6%. So when they get in there offensively, opponents really are not blocking their shots at a high rate, which explains probably how good they've been from two, which I mentioned earlier. They're 5th in the country in 2-point percentage. The other thing I'll mention in that Iowa State game, you mentioned it earlier, DY, and how well they shot. And I can't remember if it was off air at the beginning of the show, but they scored 87 on Iowa State. We know that Iowa State's one of the top 5 defenses in the country. And against Iowa State, BYU averaged 1.27 points per possession. The most Iowa State had allowed in a game this entire season to date is 1.11 points per possession outside of that BYU game. So they can get it going, but they also have games like Cincinnati in Provo where they only score 60. So you can get them in some clunkers.
Live by the 3, die by the 3.
Last night against Oklahoma, well, we're recording this on Wednesday night, but on Tuesday night in Norman, BYU got beat 82-66. They hit some shots, but not at the rate that they would like. So anyways, well, hey, we'll do a little bit more BYU talk when we come back from another break here, but we'll dive into maybe some of the individual breakdowns of the players and give you guys a little bit more education on the Cougars heading into a big matchup in Provo. But first, we got to tell you about DraftKings. Looking for a super offer for Super Bowl 58? DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered. New customers can bet on the big game and turn $5 into $200 instantly in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code KCSN. New customers can bet $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 58 with code KCSN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or in West Virginia, visit www.1800gambler.net In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/football for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest-ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com. Substack.com.
Get that phone number right, Cole.
I do my best. You guys might notice that I slow down when I'm reading that and try to get that right. There's a lot of numbers in there. I want to make sure I get it right for our guys at DraftKings, our guys and girls at DraftKings. Great folks over there. Go check them out as you get ready and place some Super Bowl bets, prop bets, whatever it is you so choose. DY, just go through a quick individual breakdown of this BYU roster. They are a very deep, balanced team. So they have 7 guys that average 9 points or more. They have 6 guys that average double figures. Their top 8 guys, the thing you're going to notice about BYU when I go through these guys, they're very experienced. It doesn't surprise you with BYU historically, football, basketball, sports. They have older guys on their team or older girls. So they're an older veteran team. Their top 8 guys in their rotation have combined to play in 658 games. I mentioned they attempt 33 threes per game. They have 6 guys who shoot 34% or better from 3. They have 5 who shoot 36% or higher from beyond the arc. Their leading scorer is 6'7" senior wing Jackson Robinson, former 4-star recruit, started his career at Texas A&M, then went to Arkansas, been at BYU the past 2 years. He averages 13.5 points per game, shoots better than 36% from 3. 59% of his field goal attempts on the year are 3-point attempts. He shoots nearly 7 a game from beyond the arc. He's played in 84 career games. Junior Trevin Nell, 6'5", shooting guard, 43% from 3 on nearly 6 3-point attempts per game. He averages more than 11 points per contest. And their loss to Cincinnati, just to give you an example of how hot he can get from beyond the arc, he was 9 of 14 from 3 in that game. 102 games in his career. He's a career 40% 3-point shooter on 369 attempts from beyond the arc. 6'5" guard Spencer Johnson played in 108 games, averaged nearly 11 points per game, 5.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 31% from 3 on nearly 5 attempts per game. So he's one of the guys that doesn't shoot it as well from 3, but he can still knock it down. Trey Orr, he's a 6'6" junior center, averages better than 10 points per contest on 63% shooting, 4.6 rebounds. He's played in 80 career games, started all 33 games for BYU last year, averaged 13 points per game on 61% shooting, 8 rebounds per game. Also a really good free throw shooter, career 76%, 84% this season, specifically from the line. I know it's just getting long-winded here. 6'11" forward Noah Waterman played in 90 career games, averaging 10 points per contest, shooting 38% from 3, more than 5 attempts per game from beyond the arc. 371 of his 545 career field goal attempts are threes. That's 68%. So he's a pick-and-pop guy that's going to look to shoot it from the perimeter. And then Richie Saunders, 6'5" sophomore guard, 56 games his career, averaging 10 points per game on 53% shooting from the floor. So very efficient shooter overall. 63 of 96 on twos, 66% on twos. He's a 6'5" sophomore guard. And then Dallin Hall, 6'4" sophomore point guard with 56 games in his career, averaging more than 9 points, 5 assists, shooting 46% from the floor and 39% from 3. And I already rattled off Khalifa's stats to you, the 6'11" junior center earlier. So what'd you take away from that, DY?
They're deep.
Yeah. They're deep. They're balanced. They got a lot of veteran guys, experienced guys. They all can shoot the ball for the most part. And so everybody kind of just feels interchangeable when you watch BYU. I've watched a decent number of their games, and any given night, it feels like it can be one guy who goes off. And so it'll be a really interesting game. I mean, Trey Orr is really the only guy that scares me in the post, DY. So that's going to be really interesting because he's 6'6", but he's a thicker, like really strong, low to the ground type center that has been really effective. But, K-State will probably put Will McNair on him. He's not a guy that's going to try and pick and pop. So I think K-State's bigs can be effective, and length can affect Traore. And then, we'll see how Cam Carter and the other guys, Kaluma, how their length can affect these guys. But I say length. I mean, one of the things I noticed, DY, when I went through, like, as I was reading off their numbers to you and their profiles, these guys, they're bigger guards. I mean, most of their guards are 6'4" or 6'5".
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Like you mentioned, Kansas State's probably going to be the more athletic team. They'll have a little bit more length, probably, especially in the front court, maybe not so much the back court, as you alluded to. But BYU's finding a way. It's a tough place to play. Does K-State have a KU hangover, too? That's something to keep in mind.
Well, how important is it that they have this extra day playing on Big Monday?
It's important. It's very significant because you probably get Tyler Perry 2 days rest too, right? I bet they didn't even, we're recording this on Wednesday night. I bet they didn't practice today. I'll be honest. Yeah. I bet they took 2 days of practice off. I bet they took Tuesday and Wednesday off. Or if they did anything, it was very, very light, especially for Tyler Perry and Cam Carter. Those guys played 44, 45 minutes on Monday. So it was great to get a day off, but guess what? You had to play 5 extra minutes anyway. So I don't know. Like, but I think the KU hangover is a real conversation because, and I don't mean to run this team down after a significant win, but they haven't shown the consistency or the maturity this year. I mean, Jerome Tang himself said after losing in Stillwater, that this team picks and chooses kind of when they want to turn it on, right? When they want to lock it. And he said it after the KU win that they told on themselves, right? This is what you're capable of, and you haven't done that up until this point. Or you haven't done that in some games up until this point. Until they prove to me that they have the maturity to bring in every night, to lock in every night, to engage every night, then I'm not going to dismiss the possibility of a KU hangover. I'm not.
Yeah, we'll see. It kind of gave them the chance to hit the reset button, that win over KU. I get it was a very emotional victory for them. I'm hoping that it being on a Monday night and having that extra day. Yeah.
Let's hope.
Yeah, we need to see it.
Everything we've seen up to this point tells us that we should not give them the benefit of the doubt.
But what I will say, I mean, they could have won at Tech. They were right there to win that, and they were right that they were in a position. They were tied with Iowa State with 4 minutes left in Ames, which most people aren't in that position.
And I'll tell you, my initial thoughts is the BYU loss is going to look similar to the Texas Tech or Iowa State.
Man, but what a win it would be! I mean, if they win that game. I mean, if they won that game, DY, I think I know Joe Lenardi currently has them like the 12th team out, but I think if they beat BYU, I think they would be in the tournament if the season ended at that day. I mean, they would have 7 quad 1 and quad 2s with 3 quad 1s. They would have the same number of quad 1s as BYU. I don't know what their net would shoot. Road wins mean a lot more to your net. Like you saw it, right? K-State only went from 83 to 79 in the overall net rankings, which don't matter as much.
But K-State didn't even play last night, bumped up to 77.
Yeah, they moved up a couple spots, and we're recording this on Wednesday night, and what Providence does at home against Creighton, and what Villanova, which bad podcasting here because it's 5 minutes left in the game, and you guys won't hear this, but they're tied at 50 at Xavier. Villanova is, and Villanova, if they got on a tear, yeah, I mean, well, no, I didn't say
that's a terrible loss.
I don't think if Xavier's 48th in the net, so it would actually. I know they're only they're 12 and 10, but if Villanova won that game, they'd probably get up into the 30s in the net again. And Villanova, if they go on a hot streak, they could get into quad 1 territory. I mean,
yeah, but that tells you, and people really sacked Terrence Oglesby hard. They call him T.O. He's on the Field 16 network because of what he said about the Big 12. But his logic was not flawed when he when he kind of ran down the Big 12. And I'll be honest, he's one of my favorite guys to listen to on that network. Probably is my favorite guy to listen to on that network. And him going after the net and all this other stuff, yeah, it's not good for the Big 12, but it's good for college basketball because you just painted a perfect picture. Why are Xavier and Villanova around the top 40 when they're both sitting there 12 and 10?
Well, Villanova, they did beat a lot of they had that stretch.
They lost a lot of shit teams in Philadelphia, too.
they lost.
I get what you're saying, but I get what you're saying, and I know you're going to want to defend it, but there is no defending some of these teams. Like, you can't tell me Xavier is better than Kansas State.
Oh, no. You're talking to somebody that rails on the net all the time. I hate the net.
Yeah, right. But Xavier is almost 40 spots ahead of Kansas State in the net. Like, that's preposterous.
Yeah, I don't like the net at all. I hate that it rewards blowing teams out, your efficiency metric.
But that's why I'm defending T.O. from the...
Yeah, I get what he was saying.
He's a great listen, by the way.
Yeah, no, he's really good.
Those other guys are a little... But he's great, and I know people hate him because he tried to take a shot at the Big 12, but the logic that he was using was not flawed, and he's right that it's almost become a manipulation game, and it's wrong.
Yeah.
It's wrong. Iowa State's benefiting from it. Does anyone really think BYU is one of the top 10 teams in the country?
I don't know. I don't want to talk. I don't want to, get any bulletin board material out there to the Cougars yet until K-State's got to play them twice. I think BYU's solid, but I think they're a top 25 team, potentially. So Nick's right. BYU fans are going to clip that segment there to say that. A lot of respect for BYU guys. I like BYU fans and everyone, so no issues there. All right. Well, do you have anything else, DY? You going to throw a prediction out there? It's probably not going to be a win after what you just said, though, because you need to see it to believe.
I think it looks similar to Ames or Lubbock, where Kansas State makes it a 38-40 minute game, but loses.
You know what? I think K-State's going to win this game. And, man, it's going to be a late night. I'm going to have a hard time going to sleep after it. We got a 9 o'clock tip in Provo. And
probably at the same time as the KU game did. God damn it.
Yeah, but it's Saturday night.
But geez, do you know what time I stopped working the KU game? It was 3, 4 a.m. And then I had football press conferences the following morning.
You know what time I got home taxiing John Kurtz home? As he sat there on his phone riding home with me. I mean, we got home at 1:30. And then I was up probably till 2:30, and then I got up with my kids at 6. But it was worth it. So
it's all worth it. It's always worth it. I have a great job. I'm not.
Yeah, no, I know.
Let's see the job. I had a child. Obviously, was telling me what job would you have if you couldn't have your own, and I couldn't think of one. This is the job I want. So. I should stop saying that.
No, you're good.
It was a late night and it was an early morning.
Well, we're gonna have an active weekend because we got the Chiefs Super Bowl on Sunday. I know you're not gonna be probably. I know you're not.
I'll tell you what, the Chiefs better handle the 49ers because the Packers about beat them 3 weeks ago in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean it's the
field goal, right? Then we hit the field goal off the upright.
Yeah, I think so. Missed the field goal. It is the biggest. The other important thing, it's the biggest day in the history of Iowa State athletics. Wouldn't you say?
I do like, our producer kind of coined a nickname here, Brock Turdy. I like that.
I mean, I can't think of a bigger day for Cyclone athletics than this one.
But I can't, here's what I will say. And I will be putting some money on the Chiefs on DraftKings, our sponsor, obviously, because the Chiefs have the better quarterback. And to be honest, contrary to popular belief out there, the Chiefs had the better defense.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. The 49ers don't have they have a reputation of a good defensive team, but they haven't been nearly as good this year. They still got some talent on that side of the ball. Anyways, all right. Well, hey, be on the lookout. We might try to swing another show this week. That's news to Nick producing this, by the way. So shout out to Nick Springer, our producer, who has to always sit here and listen to this. Nick, we can we'll figure that out. We'll let you know. But it might have a guest on, and maybe that guest can tell us about. We'll talk off air on it, Nick. But maybe that guest can talk about what the schedule was this week. Might be out some intel on that. So we'll keep you posted. Stay on the lookout on the KCSN feed. And don't worry, Nick. It'll be fine. So anyways, I think K-State wins against BYU. I'm predicting a close win. I think K-State shoots it well. And looking forward to a fun game in Provo on Saturday night and a fun weekend. So keep the good vibes going. And then K-State goes into a bye week after 2-0 week with 2 huge wins. So that's my prediction, and I'm going to stick to it. So hopefully it comes out that way and comes to fruition. All right, I appreciate all you guys for listening to another episode of 3 Mall. We'll get John Kurtz back someday. He's better at hosting this stuff than me. We certainly miss John, as he's the far talented host. So I know, appreciate you guys putting up with me trying to tee things up here with DY. So yeah, I've heard John take shots at me when I'm not.
Yeah, I can also talk crap on John because I know he's not going to listen to this. So
yeah, no, you won't. Yeah, Kurtz doesn't listen to us. So I appreciate all you guys for listening to us, though. As always, go check out Holiday Distillery. Get stocked up with Ben Holiday Bottled and Bond Bourbon or 360 Vodka. Go download the DraftKings sports betting app. Get your bets placed for DraftKings. Try to win some money this weekend with the Super Bowl, college basketball, etc. And go get your home field apparel at homefieldapparel.com. Discount code 3mall23 at checkout. Appreciate all of you. Thank you for listening to another episode of 3 Mall.